Hey guys, Trigami John coming out to another Diablo 4 video. Okay, this video is going to be very specific, so for those of you who are not interested, I do apologize, but I'm gonna let you know right now what this video is going to be about. So as you guys see in the right hand side of my screen, right where my hand is here, you can see that I have this azeron. It's in a lot of my videos, it's in all my Twitch streams, right? This is allowing me to use the analog stick right here and maneuver my character. Okay, so as long as I go in here, I can drive my character around. What I want to point out here is this is going to be a guide for one to show you how to do this on this particular device. If you are disabled or have some sort of a disability, I do know a lot of my viewers out there have some sort of disability where they can only use like one hand to play, whether it's your left hand or right hand. They do make this for left and or right. This video will explain how you can map all the buttons, what's a comfortable layout, how it kind of works, so that way you can use this as a replacement instead of having to do keyboard and mouse. Now I generally mix and match. I map a lot of my keys on my azeron and then I still use my mouse. I don't have to do that. There are other products out there we'll talk about as well a little bit in the video. We won't touch on them too much, but I'm going to show you what I do, how I do it, and that way hopefully it helps you guys. Also, I will put the link down below to the azeron with my promo code. It helps out all the Aftershock United crew, as well as I will put the mapping. So I'll actually export my profile. I'll show you how to export, import, so that way you can also bring it in and copy it and at least have a good basis to start your one-handed gaming. All right, so I know a lot of you have been very curious, like what is it that I am using to go ahead and move around here? How am I doing it? Noticing that the buttons on the bottom are switching to an Xbox controller. Well, the reason is because my current device that I'm using can actually be recognized by the PC as a controller. So this can both be recognized as a controller and or a keyboard. What this allows me to do is it allows me to map it in such a way that I can utilize both functionalities. What this means is I can have my buttons mapped like so. As you can see here, this is the screen of what the software looks like when I have it mapped. This is my normal configuration. So I do have a couple of different configurations here. This is the stereotypical one that I run. However, I do have a controller version that is a little bit mapped out a little differently. This is only Xbox controller inputs. So actually, if I blow this up here, let's see if I can't make this just a little bit bigger for you guys. Do it live. But as you can see here, you have all the buttons here. These are only Xbox buttons that I've mapped here, as well as I do have one keyboard here just for shift because it's easier. I felt it was a little awkward to use full controller mapping with the A, I believe, is the comparison when you're trying to compare gear. That just felt really weird because you have to use the analog to maneuver it around. So I added the shift button just because it felt better. Now also notice that I don't have any of this top row of buttons mapped. The reason being is because when you buy this, you don't have to buy the most expensive one, which is this guy. You can actually buy this as a compact version, and it doesn't have these top four, and it has buttons right here. And that's actually what I would recommend you guys buy, mainly because I feel like I don't need these little ledges up top. If anything, they're just kind of like cumbersome, or like I randomly bump them here and there, other than the pinky one. That's the only one that really doesn't affect me, but I definitely would pay attention and probably buy the compact one as well. But notice that you'll see here that I have Xbox B, Y, RB, XA, Xbox LB. These are all mapped here. All I had to do was just simply click on a button and then tell it what kind of input it is, right? Is it a keyboard input? Is it an X input, which stands for Xbox controller input? Is it a mouse input, joystick, so on and so forth? Yes, that is a mouse, so you can do your left click, right click, right? So let's say you didn't want to do these here and you wanted to map these two, which is primary, secondary, like on Xbox, you could map these to left click, right click right here, or the middle button as well. Strafe back and forth. You can do a lot of different things, right? It gives you many options. Joysticks, right? If you're gonna do like arcade games, there's a lot of variability here. Mouse wheel, obviously, that's another one. Input sequence, this is a bunch of them all together. Like this mapping itself makes it really nice, especially when you add like stuff like layering, which then if you turn this on, you can then layer in the others. Backup profiles to see how you can go and swap between the two. This is all controlled with a little bit of logic in their software, but altogether you can also do straight up macros. So if you want to do like say you're a hardcore player and you want to do a log out macro and do boom exit out, you could totally do that as well. But what I like to do is, obviously I'm going to leave it as Xbox input here, and in this case it's going to be a B for this one here for the shift essentially button for me, or spacebar for maneuvering, dodging, right? But utilizing this makes the most sense because as you go to play, right? So why these buttons here, these are going to be your buttons on the bar. So you're 1, 2, 3, 4 if you're on keyboard, but notice that if I go to back to the game here and I maneuver, notice that it's Y, RB, left trigger, right trigger. That is why I have it like set up like this, is because it will match what this is right here, right? So this allows you to have like a natural feel. Also, these bottom buttons become your first 2 fingers become your more pointer fingers. You can change any of these mappings, but the biggest key part about this is when I switch it to this mode and simply just activate controller by hitting activate here, now my 100% of all my inputs with my device are going to be in full-on controller mode. So if I wanted to go ahead and do anything else, dodge or anything like that, I can do this. I currently am playing with only one hand. I can do this for a while. Attacking is a little weird. I'm not gonna lie. I shouldn't really say attacking. Actually, attacking is very easy to do with one hand. But one of the things that does get a little bit confusing though is when you want to compare items and stuff like that, I usually got to stop and think, okay, what button's what again? Or I keep this hidden or up on my keyboard. Now, another thing to note is if you, let's say you are an Xbox player, right? An Xbox player. Or I think even PlayStation, you know what? I should try this on my PS5 because I have a PS5. But in general, what you can do with this is you can simply bind it to the onboard. So you can say onboard of this device here, go ahead and map all those buttons. So that way, if I plug it into something, it'll automatically read those inputs for me. That is something you can 100% do. It doesn't matter what it is, what are you trying to do out there. But you can do that, and it is a very good option as well. I'm trying to talk while doing my hand gestures. It's a little awkward, I'm sorry. But what I wanted to showcase, I am only utilizing very limitedly one hand here to do all this. Obviously it gets smoother, it gets better if you're if you're more adept to it, right? I have not really optimized a whole lot of my buttons because I don't use every one of them. This build only requires 2 really good buttons, so just kind of think about that. But notice that gameplay is able to do this. I don't need both hands. This can be done with the left and or right hand, and it's super simple to map everything. That's the takeaway here. Is it's one of those situations where, let's say you are struggling and you need some help, right? Or let's say you are a person who plays for a long time and you would like to play for even longer and really get a competitive edge, right? Because my hand does not get sore at all by using this at all. So it actually is very comfortable. I can use it all day long, no problems. I actually map this as well for work stuff as well. So sometimes if I'm working from home, I'll actually I have a certain profile that I import and export just for work for my software that I run. But it's just one of the things where that helps you out drastically, and I want to make sure that everyone who maybe has a disability can really figure out how to do it. So really quickly here, before we go into how do you get it, how much does it cost, what I would recommend, what I wouldn't recommend, let's go ahead and let's show you guys how to map it first for the beginners. So the biggest takeaway here, the biggest hard part is going to be, first thing is going to be this here, right? So when you click on this, this is essentially your analog stick. This is the analog stick down here on my right thumb, where my thumb is. So this is where you can say an analog stick, a keyboard, these options, right? Analog joystick is standard. Keyboard is WASD. This is actually how it comes standard with the map. What you need to do is have an Xbox joystick. I'll hit apply, and now it comes an Xbox joystick. What this allows it to do is get recognized by Diablo 4 as a controller. And I'm prefacing it like that because you can actually have it WSD in a couple other ways, and other games will recognize it as a controller. However, Diablo 4, to get it to recognize it as a controller, you do need to say Xbox joystick for this button. Obviously, these buttons all correspond to the corresponding locations. This one down here being actually this little right button here. There's a little toggle right here. So if I want to go flip this one, this is actually what I use for toggle mute on and off. It works out really, really well for my personal build, right? But notice all these buttons are mapped. They correspond to the locations here. So this would be their center row right here, where my fingers are. This is going to be the center row. Then these back ones are actually going to be the buttons that are down here. So notice that it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 buttons on each finger. That's how it works. That's how you get so many mappable buttons. You don't actually need that many. As you can see here, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 buttons not mapped here, and even these ones up here are duplicates because there's this little key knob here that makes it a little easier to do those particular functions, right? Like those ones right there. So I use that for that. You don't have to do that. This is literally my preference. But I want you guys to be aware of it because I want you guys to be able to figure out how to do this. And also, if you're going to do keyboard binds, so you just literally come over here and I'm going to hit the escape key. If I change and I hit, let's say the caps lock key, it comes that one. You can have multiple key binds of the same button. It doesn't matter. It's all up to you and what you prefer. I'm going to put this back to escape before I forget, and boom. Now, that's the easy part. Now, the next part of this is, let's say you buy one of these, right? Let's say you buy one and you want to take my current configuration, maybe tweak it a little bit, maybe make it a little better. Things to note is I'm going to give you a configuration. Okay, with my configuration, what that's going to come with, I need to shrink this back down, sorry, is it's going to come with my current profiles of when I export this. Right now, it's only set up to be Diablo 4 and controller, and then a backup profile, which is just standard. Notice that there's a check mark next to it. This means that it's active. So chances are when you first get it, it's going to be active on one of your 2 onboards here. These can be mapped from one of these here as well. Like for example, if I click this one and I say onboard 1, it's going to overwrite onboard 1 and make it that, right? So keep that in mind when you import this in and you're like, oh, John, it's not working. When you click on it, click activate, now it becomes active and your device will work in it. If you don't have it plugged in or software open, there is actually a button on the bottom here. You're gonna see this little button right here. Notice that when I press this button, notice that it changed that because it turned to onboard there. Profile 1, 2, right? Profile 1 and 2. So that's what that dictates, is whether it's profile 1 or 2 is the standard. So you'll need to map it on your computer or your other device, Windows device, and then you can actually have it on onboard, right? So now that we've talked about that, how do you import export? If you are a current user already, I highly recommend that you export your profile, this right here, beforehand. What this is going to do is going to give you a JSON file. For those of you who don't know, that's like an HTML language for web browsing and coding. That's what they use as their macro and their fundamentals for keybinds on the Azeron keypad. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to take the downloadable link that I'm going to give you. This is going to be a Google Drive link that's to my personal Google Drive with just the download link for my current profile. It's not a bug. It's not spam. Don't worry. You're going to download it and then you're going to hit import. After you hit import, you're going to scroll down here to see where it says Azeron profiles. You're going to click import and boom. Now you're going to see that these are updated. Now, obviously, I just imported the same one I already made earlier. So didn't necessarily do anything fancy, but let's say I delete this one here. Boom, it's deleted. If I come back over here and let's say I go ahead and import my profile. Oh, let's export. Say I import my profile and boom, import. Come over. What do you know? There it is. It's back again. Okay. So that's how it works. Super simple, really easy to use that profile. Let's go ahead and I'm going to pull up the website just that way you kind of know where I'm talking about, where you can get this from. So if we go ahead and I pull up the website here, this is Azeron, store.azeron.eu. It is a United EU company that 3D prints these parts. It is 3D printed. I'm actually in the process of potentially trying to buy another one. So at the moment, if I go to store and I say order now, you can see I have the Cyborg. This is the one I have. You have the Cyborg Compact. This is the one I would recommend everyone get. Now that I bought the bigger one, I realized I didn't need it. This is a little cheaper. But I'm actually gonna be trying to buy a cryo. So I actually have it in my order right now, as well as in my order base. And one of the takeaway of this is you can see here I have the cryo in the order. They aren't cheap. They are kind of expensive. Definitely make sure you come down here, use the coupon ASU at store purchase. That's our code for Aftershock United. It gives you a discount, and it gives us a little bit of a kickback. But the other thing is they have this adjustable magnet stand. That wasn't a thing back when I got this. And even though I love playing it like in this orientation, which is the, I guess you can't see that yet until I show my Racer Kaio again. But yeah, so you can see like this is great, but I actually will kick it up. So it'll make it feel a lot better. I know a lot of people don't understand that concept, or maybe like, well, are you sure to make it feel better? It 100% will. It's just no different than why they have the mouses that instead of having your hand like this, they're like this. It's because it's more eco-friendly on your, and more economical and ergonomical on your wrist. So it's going to help you, especially if you're a hardcore gamer or grinder, so on and so forth. But as you can see here, to buy the Cryo, which is actually the mouse that has the same type of mappable functions. So for those of you who are disabled who maybe don't want the hand print, right? So let's say you don't want my hand print that I have. Let's say you want the mouse and you just want to use a mouse. You can actually just use your mouse and move it and then have those buttons. There are just enough buttons on there that you can fully map it for Diablo 4, especially if you're using the shift functionality. But yeah, so that's going to go ahead and that's going to wrap it up. Obviously, use the coupon. This is where you buy it. Link's going to be down below. I don't want to keep rambling on too awful much. As you can see here, this is the mapping that I use for Diablo 4 currently. This is the main one that I utilize, where I've got a hodgepodge of, I use my joystick. I have my Xbox B set up for my space, as well as another one for shift or for space as well, so that way I can go ahead and run while I'm on the horse. I do this specifically just because I like to have the combination of the two, because I always use my mouse. But if you're disabled, you need to use the D4 controller option. And this is 100% controller inputs. It will never switch back and forth on you, and it will allow you to play fully one-handed with no problems. Hopefully this video helped you. Hopefully, even if you're just curious, like, how can I do this? Here you go. There are other options out there. Obviously, there are another mouse out there, the Razer Naga Pro. I have one. I'm going to do a video on it later, where it's 12 buttons and they can be mappable, and they're shift macroable as well. That'll also allow you to play fully with one hand. Diablo 4, that one's a little more complicated, that you have to do double button functions, which is kind of dumb. But I'll do a video. I'll make it. I'll show you guys, so that way you guys can have that information. If you are someone out there who has a disability and cannot play with both hands, this is going to help you tremendously. I think the last thing that I wanted to talk about was, you know what, I don't remember, so it's not that important. But basically, I just want to be able to help you guys. If there's a video idea that you want me to explore or try, like I said, I am going to probably pull the trigger and buy this. I was trying not to, honestly, to be fully transparent. It's kind of expensive. It would literally, I'm gonna buy this for one video for you guys, and that's it. I doubt I actually ever use it, because I have the Logitech G502. This mouse. It's like the epitome of gamer mouse, right? I love it. It works really well. So I doubt that I really like it so much that I want to switch mouses and have more macro buttons when I already have an Azeron. However, I'll let you guys know. I'll probably buy it and test it out. If you guys want to donate to help me out, I appreciate it. Links are down below. But yeah, that's gonna do it for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe. If you do want to buy one of these, go ahead, go to the store. Links are gonna be down below. Don't forget to use promo code ASU at checkout. Have a good rest of your day. Peace.